So welcome to the interview, Melanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. One of the things about you is I think you've been honing your art skills since you were very, very young.
Yeah, I've always sort of been interested in making things, and my parents were always really encouraging of stuff like that. So I really started out doing a lot of knitting and doodling. My grandparents also are oil painters, so they kind of got me my first experience in painting as well.
Well, that's
Um,
interesting. Do you have other family members that are artistic as well?
my sister takes some classes, but it's really my grandparents that do have done the most painting that I've seen in my life. So that was always a really big influence on me.
Well, you actually you work with a number of different mediums, right? Oil, acrylic, water, and
hmm
digital, right?
Yes, yeah, I've been trying to teach myself a little bit of something new every year. Because I'm primarily a self-taught artist, I took art in high school, but in college I studied urban planning. So when I was, maybe I was procrastinating, but I was always trying to doodle or do some watercolor or painting to always keep practicing and try some stuff, new stuff. So um, I really didn't start painting until I want to say my senior year of college. I was doing mostly just drawing. Um, During lectures, in my notebooks and stuff like that. So after I graduated college, I took a painting class, an oil painting class, at a community college nearby. And that's what really got me started into oil painting, because then I knew how to clean my brushes and set up a composition, that sort of thing. Um, and then after that, I took up digital painting, which is a pretty interesting medium, at least in the way that I do it. Maybe we'll show the video a little bit later, but it's pretty much just sort of prolonged sketching, because you don't have to wait for layers to dry like you do for an oil painting. You can just sort of keep sketching and sketching for hours, and finally you have this full composition that, um, if you print out, it looks like a oil painting.
Yeah, actually, that's how I became aware of you, right? My wife actually met you at an art expo, and
hmm
she bought one of your art pieces, and it was a piece of, I think it was a corner of in Cartagena, was it?
Yep.
It was art. It was a piece of like an outdoor of a shop, and you actually sent us video of that particular piece being created,
hmm
right? Do you have the piece in front of you, or do you have anything
I
in?
do. I have the digital version right here, so I, I could follow along.
Yes. So you want to walk us through the process, or because you did send us a video describing the entire process.
Yeah, I can. Um, Let me see. The video that I have, um, let me see how long it is. Oh, this is the quick version.
That's fine, whatever you prefer. Yeah, one of the things that's great about that particular type of art, it seems to be so very detailed.
It is. You can just zoom in as far as you could possibly go. So you can't quite do that with an actual painting, but here you can zoom in as far as you need to. You can match colors if you stepped away and a couple hours later you want to keep painting the wall. You can just match the color instantly, which would be lovely if you could do that in normal painting. But
Yes,
uh,
that's a big advantage. It also is portable, right? You can take it with you wherever you go.
yes, if I want to work in a coffee shop or anything like that, um, it's very convenient. Let's see.
If you don't have it, that's fine. We can always overlay it afterwards on the video.
Okay.
If you could just maybe just tell us about it, what it is that you do.
Sure. Well, I can tell you a little bit about the inspiration that came sort of that how I put together the Art Expo show. Um, I was actually on vacation in Colombia with my family last summer in Cartagena. I'm sorry, 2 summers ago. And that is when my mom saw the ad for a call for artists for the New York show. She saw a BBC news article talking about a little kid that had exhibited his work at the show. And she said, you have to apply. I was in the process of building my website. So she said, you have to apply. This is a great way for you to get your work out there. We always joke that she's my manager because she's always helping me put
Of course.
together shows and things like that. So I applied for Art Expo while I was in Colombia. And so I kind of knew if I got accepted to the show, I would need to put together a new body of work. So what better place to do that when you're on vacation? I brought a bunch of sketchbooks, watercolor. I brought my iPad so I could do some digital painting while I was there. And I sort of just tried to get as many ideas as I could, take as many pictures for reference. And so the picture that I made for your wife was from that trip. And I was just so excited about the idea of putting together a show like this, because that's, I think, the hardest part for me is putting together a cohesive show. So I had this focal point. So it'll be everything about Cartagena, exploring sort of the colors, the vibrancy, the street life, that sort of thing. And it was great doing the show in New York because there's actually a lot of Hispanic people that stop by and they're like, I have been there, I've traveled here, this reminds me of when I was there on vacation. So that felt really good. And I also was able to connect with other Colombian artists, which I don't normally get a chance to do, especially in Colorado. So that was a really great opportunity.
It's we've been to Colombia numerous times too. Actually, ironically, it wasn't intended, but my wife is actually in Cartagena right at this moment.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, she's there. She actually went on vacation with our daughter. And one of the things that we both talked about was that you do capture the spirit of Colombia in your artwork.
Thank you very much.
You really do. And even the palenqueras, right? The women with you can see the picture behind you on your.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
About the ladies carry the fruit bowls and they wear very colorful dresses. And I've seen not only that picture that you have there, but I think you've done others, and that I saw on Instagram. And you did an excellent job. It looks really, really wonderful. It really captures the spirit.
Thank you. It's always been something that I've been interested in because of my background. My mom being Colombian, and I was born in Long Island, so we were surrounded by all of our Colombian family when we lived out there. So as I was growing up, I went to Michigan State, I started salsa dancing. I've always been sort of intrigued to learn more about Colombia, and painting is one way to do that. So I love to study the dancers and the palenqueras and the different cities. I've done paintings of fruit, coffee cups, everything.
Yeah, I noticed that about your artwork. And your Instagram page is like walking through your life. Right, because you got pictures of you in an airplane. I see pictures of eggshells, furniture, a chair, a sofa, trees, the beach, gloves. Right,
Yeah.
so you seem to capture everything that's around you. And if you scroll through your Instagram, it kind of tells you a story about you. And so that's very nice. I think you do that very, very well.
Thank you. I think that sort of comes from maybe teaching myself, because I've always sort of considered everything around me to be my lessons almost. So if there's a coffee cup at the restaurant and I've got 10 minutes before my food comes, I'm going to draw it. And so that's how I've always kind of kept in practice, always drawing. And if you can get the basic objects around you, it really helps improve everything. If you can get your drawing at a really good level, it just improves your painting, digital painting as well. It's just like drawing. So I try and carry a sketchbook with me and draw all the time, wherever I am.
Yes.
And that sort of helps me. That's like my own classes, kind of.
Yeah, you're teaching yourself, which is very interesting. It's a good approach. Even with the pet photos, I saw that people send you photos of their pets and you actually recreate the art. And there was a particular piece in your website that I thought was unbelievably accurate. It's just so realistic. The dog's name was Ricky, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the picture looks wonderful. It did taken you a very long time to do that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. That was, I think, one of the second pet portraits I had done. I really enjoy them just because I love animals. So it's not even like work at that point. I just really like to do it because the animals, I feel like it's almost easier than people for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it could be the texture or the color, but they're a lot of fun to draw, and it makes the people that receive them so happy. I've gotten more compliments back from those because if it's a pet that passed away, she was saying like the one with Ricky, it had a glow in his eye, like he was back. You know, it's just like her dog had come back to her. And that's why they really like the videos too, because they'll put it on sort of like those electronic picture frames, and you can see the sort of picture come to life. So it's a new element of art that I really have been enjoying with the digital painting.
Oh, that's a very interesting point. You're really affecting those people's lives, right? And their emotions regarding the loss of a pet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. That's a very good thing.
Hmm.
Wonderful thing. And you also draw. You mentioned you were into salsa dancing.
Yeah.
I saw that you had a piece of a couple dancing. I don't know if that's a couple. Is that you dancing with? There was another picture of you and a man and a woman dancing. Was that you, or was that just a couple that you saw?
Hmm. I'm not sure. Is that one on my website?
It's on your Instagram. It was I think the man was wearing a black shirt.
Huh.
Uh,
Let me pull that up.
that's okay.
Salsa dancing is one of those things. I wish I could just go to the club and set up my easel and start painting. It's always so much fun, and it's hard to capture that. Oh, is it a video of me dancing, or
Oh,
is it a picture?
so I saw a painting.
Yes. Okay. So that is from Dance Revolution, which is a studio in Ann Arbor, which I used to go to a lot when I was at school. It's over actually by the University of Michigan. But I did this as a gift for the instructor who worked or who owned the studio, and I got free dance classes in exchange for the painting. So it was kind of a fun little,
Good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just a wonderful memory because I spent so many hours dancing in this room, and they're incredible people. And I've always kind of felt that salsa is one of those ways that you can connect with people that is just,
Yeah.
it's different from going to the bar or being at work. You can really make some really good connections. So this piece kind of reminds me of that. I remember all of the really lovely people that we used to dance with, and how vibrant and colorful it is. I think this is a good example of me. I was trying to figure out how to play with colors, and this is a very colorful piece.
Yeah, you mentioned vibrant and colorful because I did notice that a lot about your work, a lot of it, and even in I think it was the food vendors that you were sketching all their and you were painting their
Oh,
fruits
yes.
and all that.
I've got this one here. Maybe I can show you a little bit closer. So this is one of the pieces I showed when I was in Art Expo. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, I can see.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is one that I brought my iPad with me, and I was doing some digital sketching. So I was able to get as much information as I could while I was there watching him work. I think it was right across the street from the coffee shop, so I just sort of posted up for a little bit. And I love it because it's such a common thing to see. You see the food vendors, they're just a sort of a part of the city itself. It's not like the built environment, but they sort of make it into a really unique culture. So I really love this piece, and I got so many more. I think I got the most reactions to this one as well, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. No matter what country you're in, the
Yes.
food vendors are always really important.
You did that in one sitting? You were actually sitting there the whole time and just while you were in the
No, I did like the painting, the color after the fact, but I did just like line sketching on my iPad while I was there. So I spent a lot of time on this portion, and then you can sort of color it in and stylize it later.
very nice. Do you have any upcoming shows or events?
I don't have any that I've currently have scheduled, but I'm planning to do a lot of local shows this year in 2020. I'm putting a lot of my energy into producing a lot of work to have up. And I'm planning to do a lot in Boulder, Denver, and Erie, Colorado, which is where I live. So I'm really excited about that.
A lot of landscapes, right?
I do.
That being in Colorado, I guess that must be a big plus.
Very big plus. Yes. I've actually, one of my favorite, I guess maybe it's a genre of painting, is called plein air painting,
Yes.
and it painting outside. So I've entered a couple of competitions in Golden this past year, and I did some plein air painting, which basically you show up in the morning, they stamp your blank canvas, and then you have 2 to 4 hours to finish the painting. So you have to do it all in one sitting. And that's a really fun thing because you're doing that with maybe 40 other painters and you're all painting together and you can see who chooses what location, what they do with their 4 hours, how they make the most of it. And then there's usually an exhibition after. So it's sort of that community piece that we were speaking a little bit earlier about where you can finally paint with other painters. Because normally I'm in here in my studio by myself. So
yeah, normally it's lonely. And that's really kind of the whole purpose of this. We want to connect like-minded artists and set up a community where you can exchange information, help each other, give each other advice, make plans to get together and meet up. And that sounds like a great opportunity for you. So you said you were with 40 other artists, you said?
yes, so it was a really good opportunity. I'm trying to see if I have one here that I did. Might be hanging up somewhere else, but yeah, you can sort of collaborate with people or sort of like an open studio idea, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think it's so great to get advice from other artists, to get feedback, or maybe they may even have a resource for you that you can contact or put you in contact with certain people that may help you or tell you about events. And that's the whole idea, to get more artists to kind of work together and help each other.
Right. Yeah. There's sort of that stigma that you're the sort of struggling artist or, like you're, how do you say it? Like you're sort of alone, you're holed up in your studio, but I don't know if that really serves that many people. It seems like with the advent of Instagram and art Instagram pages, you see that it really just benefits you to be more in communication with other artists, to see what new things people are doing, or if people are failing, that's always good to see too. Pieces that just don't work out, so you sort of feel a connection.
Yeah, I think that's, you want to take advantage of social media, you want to take advantage of technology, and you don't want to be alone, right? I
Right.
mean, you mentioned that you were very much inspired during your salsa classes, and part of that probably is the music, right? The environment, the room that you're in, the people that you're with, the fact that you're moving, there's music playing, you're dancing, you're interacting, and we need that to get ourselves motivated.
Right. I
And-
agree.
yeah, because you seem to get very emotional when you talk about the salsa and your memories of that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think is, I wish maybe more people did, even if it wasn't just salsa, maybe it was going back to more dancing, because I think that communication or having that interaction with people that's casual and maybe you're learning together, you take a class. So there's less pressure. You don't have to go right to the club or something. But I do that with a lot of my friends who are interested in learning. We'll take a class together and it's just fun. You don't have to
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be perfect or anything. Like they'll do painting classes where you can go with like have some wine and paint for 2 hours. It's sort of like a nice way to introduce yourself to something new.
Yeah, that's something that's been around, right? There's a couple of actually storefronts that do that, right? Like you
Yeah.
get together with your friends and you go out and paint and have a few drinks and enjoy yourselves. And then you have, I'm sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say it makes art a little bit more accessible because I think a lot of people are maybe intimidated to do it at first. You don't have the supplies or you don't want to do it by yourself, so you can go with some friends, and it's an easy way to get into art.
Yeah, I think that first step is very helpful, right? Because maybe people hesitate to take that very first step. They don't even know where to get the canvas or what type of paint to buy, what kind of brushes to buy, and just to get you started. And then from there on, you branch out. You see where your skills take you and your interests take you.
Yeah, and that's something I always try to do, and maybe it shows in my art, is to try new things. I love to travel. I love to take new classes, if it's cooking, if it's dancing, whatever. But whenever I'm sort of in an artistic rut, I can't get myself back into the studio. I'll go for a hike here in Colorado, so the landscapes are beautiful. I'll try and go on vacation if I can. So Colombia, I just took full advantage of that. I said I was going to draw every single day if it killed me.
Of
So
course, there,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's
and
beautiful.
then just trying new food, meeting new people. That and I try and use that as a tool for my art to make new stuff that I'm interested in and inspired by.
Yeah, fruits. I notice there's a lot of fruits in Colombia, and you painted some of those fruits. Fruits
Yes.
that you don't normally see elsewhere. You definitely don't see them in the U.S. And it's a great opportunity to taste them
Mm.
feel something different and be in a whole different environment. And the landscapes over there are really beautiful. They're
Oh
gorgeous.
yeah. Hmm. Definitely. So it's always nice to do that. Like the fruits are a great way for. I have one here. I can just set it up in my studio and just keep working on it and working on it and working on it. It's not going to move. I don't have to set anything else,
Yeah,
take it up or down. So that's kind of a good way to practice like color and texture. It's just a lot of fun. I like it.
that's good. I wonder if any artists that are watching have any feedback. It'd be great to hear some comments, maybe things that can help you, and see if maybe you're inspiring some artists right now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. And if anyone has any questions, always feel free to email me. I love talking to other artists. I got some emails after New York actually from either Hispanic artists or young women artists who were surprised to see me at Art Expo. And honestly, if it wasn't for my mother, I probably wouldn't have applied to Art Expo.
yep.
So I had people come up to me and they're like, yeah, I'd like to do this. I'm like, you can, like, believe me, I did it. You can definitely do it. Here's another example. This is a coffee that I think your wife maybe mentioned. Yep. So I like, I really like this one a lot because I think a lot of particularly Colombians noticed this one in New York and stopped by and they said, oh, I know that brand. I've had that coffee. So that made me really happy to see that because it was just one of those things. I sat down in our Airbnb in the old city in Cartagena, and these were the cups that were at the Airbnb, and we had purchased this coffee earlier that day. So I just sat down with my iPad and I painted for a couple hours, and it made it to the show. So I was really pleased.
Yeah, that grabs people's attention. If you recognize the brand, you recognize the cups, you know the style of the art on the cups, it attracts your attention.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. You mentioned Hispanic artists, and that is a very good point because one of the things I am working with are a few artists right now who are Hispanic, and they're trying to develop a Latino art organization
Hmm.
to try to connect all the artists. They're going to start, I think, in New York, but hopefully eventually branch out and develop a community of artists so that they can communicate and interact with each other.
Yeah. And that's so important because sometimes you go to museums and you just see this maybe the same names over and over again. And it's so important to have more representation for people of color, women in museums. So when you go to them, you see, hey, I can do that. I can be a painter and have my name be in a museum. So
Yeah,
those communities are really important to just show that there's sort of a support.
yeah, absolutely. The palenqueras, the women in with the fruits. I mean, historically, there were it was black women that were they were finally freed from slavery. That's what and that's how the name palenquera came across. And now they make their money really by posing with people for pictures.
Hmm.
It's like it's like a variation of Instagram, right?
Right.
They've been doing it themselves as a way to make a living for a long, long time, and it's something that helps the Black community in Colombia, which is a
Yeah.
wonderful thing.
And it's almost synonymous with Cartagena. When you look at the pictures online, you see the palenqueras, and it's sort of like um, an aspect of the traditions, the dresses and the fruits and stuff like that. So yeah, my mom. Another reason my mom is my manager is because we were sitting. I think we were waiting for the soccer game because the Colombia was going to play in the World Cup, and she saw them walking around the plaza, and so she gave some money. So they stood and posed for me, and I could draw for them. So that was good.
That's not interesting, right? Here, these women were making money in the past from selling fruits. Now
Hmm.
they're making money by posing with the fruits, posing with their dresses, and
Hmm.
it gave you an opportunity to practice your art and hopefully sell your artwork, and so you
Yeah.
can make money as well. That's an interesting chain of events.
Hmm. And I've always been interested in maybe because I know the country, Colombia will, or the Colombian embassy will do some sort of competitions for Colombian artists, or to sort of paint things that are of the country of Colombia. So that's another thing that I'd like to do to more explore my heritage is maybe submit more pieces for Colombia or just Hispanic culture in general.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. That's very interesting. So
Hmm.
the counselor would actually sponsor you, they'll sponsor you to come in and do the artwork, or?
Well, I did some when I was in high school. They put out a call for artists or call for Colombian art just to be submitted. I think they do some competitions annually, but that's the sort of thing you can find an art competition for anything. So if especially you can just search the internet and they have artist in residencies in Colombia or different competitions. So um, you can sort of tailor your interest in what you want to submit your work to. And I'd like to do a little bit more of that because I'd like to explore my heritage and connect with other Hispanic artists too.
Well, that's very good. That's good information for other artists to hear.
Hmm.
Maybe they weren't aware of this. Certainly wasn't. So that's something they can research themselves. Now,
Yeah.
your father's not Colombian, right? Your father's from the U.S.
Yep, he grew up in Indianapolis, actually, just
Yeah.
outside of Indianapolis. So that's actually the reason why we moved out to Michigan. He's an engineer. So we were in New York. Both my mom and him were working in New York, and eventually they got married. We moved out to Michigan. So I didn't really have that the Colombian influence around me anymore.
Right.
And so we would go and visit our family either in Florida or New York, and I would try and get as much as I could. My aunts my tia Chela would give me frunas or arepas or
Yes.
pan
Yeah.
de hornos. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's always been a real treat for me to go and see my family or go to Colombia and remember that because that was always a big part of my childhood is treats from my abuela or my tia Chela.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing about being open-minded about different cultures. So you
Mhm.
get to experience different foods, different languages, different music, different styles of dancing. It kind of opens up your life.
Yeah. And that's also a reason why I think I studied urban planning in school, and that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. I do land use planning out here in Colorado. So I think that's kind of how art and urban planning tie in for me. Is when I travel, you can see it. You can see how the culture of a city and the people in it and the art that they have up on the walls, maybe their murals or the fruit vendors, it all works together and makes places really special. So you can go to Paris, you can go to Cartagena, you can go to Tokyo, and they're completely different feelings. And you can capture that with urban sketching. They do Urban Sketchers is an Instagram page that's really popular. You can travel the whole world through artist sketches of the cities.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's really cool. So that's always something that I try and do when I'm sitting maybe at a coffee shop or a restaurant outside in a city. I try and do some sketches because it's my perspective of the city, and my perspective of the city is going to be completely different than the person sitting next to me sketching their perspective of the city. And all of those elements of urban spaces play into that. So I even think it's really interesting to go and see. There's murals, and Cartagena has it.
Hello.
It's a portion of the city, and they have a bunch of murals all over the city, and you can see the Colombian artists painting their interpretations of Cartagena and really bright, colorful pieces too.
Yeah, it's interesting because the urban layout really affects people's lives, right?
Hmm.
It's how whether or not you interact with other people, whether the way you walk, you can come across other people, whether there's an open area where you can all gather, maybe street vendors, maybe musicians can lay out
Yeah.
their instruments and play music, and it creates and like Cartagena's like that, right? It has a lot of plazas, plus the center, and actually a lot of Colombia has that, where there's plazas where people kind of all get together. And that definitely makes a difference in people's lives on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm. And it makes the place unique. Like you can even tell between like the old city of Cartagena and Boca Grande, which is like the newer developments and hotels and things like that. So it's like just maybe a mile or a couple miles difference, and it's a completely different feel when you walk down the street.
So your artwork really ties in very well with your what you do for a living, your career.
Yeah, I don't think I can help it. I can't really choose what I draw. It's really just what's in front of me or what I'm really passionate about at the time. So, fortunately, I've been able to tie in all those interests together. Um, but it's funny looking back. That's what's kind of nice about having a website and an Instagram is I can look back and see, wow, I was in this place and I was drawing this, and that was really important to me. But you can also see the trend of what's your style, because I've sort of been on this quest for what's my style, and I can see the bright colors and maybe a little bit more impressionistic, like flowy paintbrushes, or when I get digital painting, it's very detailed. I want to get it as hyper realistic as possible sometimes. So it's fun to look back on my work and back at my sketchbooks, because I've kept a sketchbook since probably the past 10 years. And I try and do it as often as I can. And that's a good way to see how you've improved too.
Yeah, how you've grown, right? Because sometimes
Hmm.
you take it for granted how far you've come. You
Right.
don't realize all the work you've put in, and you kind of don't realize that every day you're doing a little bit, and it
Hmm.
builds up, and you look at your book, and there's your history. That's why I was saying looking at your Instagram is good, because I notice I can see it's like a pattern. You see the lifestyle. You see a lifestyle in your artwork and the vibrant colors. And I think what you're describing would be a good thing for every artist to do, right? Because
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting to go back and study your work. They always say that you make your art separate from analyzing it. You know, make the art first and then analyze it separately, because it's a totally different process. But it's fun to go back and see what things I'm most attracted to, like what catches my eye in a city street. It's the street vendor, or maybe it's an interesting landscape that's nearby, or it's my dog, the way my dog is sleeping. So um, I like to post all of the different mediums on my Instagram page, because I'm always working with different mediums. So I think uh, it's kind of a way into the way my brain works, maybe. I like to, doodle on the side of on napkins in coffee shops, or sit down and write my best friend a letter. So maybe it's a full-on watercolor card, or I'll post my commissions or the digital painting videos. Um, I think I posted, there's one picture of a trout, that's the plein air painting when I was painting outside in Colorado. So um, I think it gives you a good idea of the things that I'm interested in, and if you happen to want to commission me, maybe any one of those mediums will interest you, because I'm happy to do it in any different medium. I'll have people say, I took this picture on vacation, I really love it, I want it to go over my couch. What do you think it would look best in? So I can do it on my iPad, I can do it in watercolor, and see like, hey, this would really be attract your eye. If it was, maybe it should be an oil painting, or maybe it should be a digital painting printed out or something. It's fun to be able to play with the different mediums a lot.
Yeah, well, we'll include your contact information so people can reach out to you. Because one of the things I know they reach out to you now for is they send you pictures of their pets.
Hmm.
So if anything, they want to send you pictures of anything else, any of their travels or anything else, that'd be something they can hire you for.
Yeah, I love the travel landscapes. Those are a lot of fun. It just adds to my list of places I want to go.
That's right. Yeah. One of the opposite of what we've been talking about, which is being in contact with other artists and networking and all of that, is that actually there's also an opportunity to kind of meditate, right? To be by yourself.
Hmm.
You are an artist, right? And do you find that you have that change? Do you find that you need both being alone as well as being with a lot of other people and a lot of other artists?
Definitely. I think as much as I'd like to sit in the salsa dance school and paint, I think it's just as important to take that time and go dancing, go have a good time, get more influence, or go travel, and then come back and work, and you can sort of process that information. But it is important to have that balance. I think I'm always striving to hit that sweet spot between working in urban planning, coming home to the studio and painting, or getting out and traveling, or getting out and doing salsa dancing, or trying new restaurants, stuff like that. That really, maybe that is why I do so many different stuff, different mediums and different subjects of my work is because I'm really trying to always try new things and balance that out with my art. So my art is sort of maybe a documentation of my life, of the things that
Yes.
I've done. Mhm.
Yeah, that was the impression I got when I looked at your Instagram. It's like it's like a little bit, it's like walking by you, alongside you and seeing everything you've seen and you experience.
But most of those are really quiet moments. I'm sketching in my sketchbook when I'm waiting at the doctor's office, or I'm usually just by myself, and I have 30 minutes of time to sort of not think about anything, don't go on my phone, and just draw a coffee cup. I'm not you sort of enter this flow state. I get it when I'm painting, and I can paint for 3 hours sometimes because you just get in this zone where it doesn't matter, whatever else is going on. If your phone is in the background, you can just sort of put all that out and work. And I had a professor at Michigan State, my intro to drawing class, and he said, you will be successful at anything that you can put your mind to and focus on. So if that's an algorithm, if you want to work out proofs in math, or you can sit and do chemistry all day. For me, I can sit and I can draw for hours and hours. So I think that's why I have been able to teach myself, is because I've always been interested. I've always tried to look up YouTube videos, or just keep a sketchbook with me. So it's something that I've just been working on slowly but surely, but I can focus on it. So I hope that I'll always continue to improve my art.
Yeah, so it's a form of meditation,
Hmm.
right? And I think what your professor said, that's a very good thing to say to all the students.
Yeah.
Because everybody's trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And your art professor's message was, if you can focus on something, that's a hint of something that you can do.
Yeah, that's sort of a sign that maybe that's your passion. And that, I think that's important because, not everybody's passion is to become a doctor or become, this or that. And I think we need to encourage more people to be artists and not, there's always sort of that it comes, it's like, oh, I hope you are a successful artist, and I hope you're not a starving artist or something like that. And there are super successful artists that can make a living, and they, either they sell it on their website or sell it on their Instagram. So I think we need to encourage more people, especially like through the community, that you can be successful at this. You just, it's just another muscle. You need to learn the business side maybe, but yeah.
It's just another muscle. That's a good way to put it.
Hmm.
That's a very good way to put it. Because that's something, if we work on that muscle, we can develop that muscle.
Right. Hmm.
That's very interesting. A good way. Can you tell us anything about the paintings right behind you?
Sure. So this one is a landscape that I did of Lake Michigan. There's a lot of dunes along Lake Michigan, and this is Warren Dunes. So I really love the lakes, especially being in Colorado. You sort of miss you don't have quite as many lakes here. So it's a unique feature that reminds me of home.
Right.
And so this one I think even has some sand in it from the beach. But it's one of those, like I love to work with color and love to work with textures. So landscapes are a way for me to explore that. And this one always reminds me of home. So I like it a
How long
lot.
did it take you to do something like that?
It depends. This one I sort of put on hiatus. I remember it took me a couple months actually. It's called Dune Climb. And there was even like a bunch of people. I was thinking of maybe adding some people in it, but once I sign it, that's usually when I call it done. And if I want to do it again, I'll make another piece. But yeah, it took me a couple months, I think. But there's some elements to it that I really love. I love the clouds and the color, and sort of the feel of being on the beach in August.
Absolutely. It's beautiful.
Thank you. This is one other one that I had when I was in New York, and this is, speaking of Latin artists, this is Plaza San Domingo, which has La Gorda Gutierrez by Botero.
Botero, yeah, Colombian artist, yeah.
So it was sort of my nod to Botero on this one, where I wanted to get the whole scene with the palenqueras here. This is actually my mom and dad. My dad here, they were eating at the coffee shop while I was painting. So I really loved the red tents of the cafes that they have in the plazas. And then you could see the women who were there, they'll take pictures with you. They've got the fruit, or they're maybe selling some clothes like headbands or something like that. And then you have the statue, which is always sort of silently there. There's a bunch of tours that come through, and it makes this plaza really special, just like all the other plazas that he has his statues in. It's a reason why people come here. So it's sort of shows the power that art can add to a city. It brings people there.
Yeah, you're right. He does have art all over the place. People should look it up. Botero is the name of it. And it's a Colombian, very well-known Colombian artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's again, beautiful piece.
Thank you. Let me see. These are my second version of my Colombian women, which are my favorite subject. Can you see it there?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay. So this is one that I'm working on. So it's not completed, but it's since I did my first show. So I had my first solo show in 2016, right after I graduated from Michigan State in Lansing, which is where Michigan State is located. And I had a couple of different pieces. I had some pet portraits, I had some landscapes, and then I had these two Colombian women, which was a acrylic painting that I had done from a picture when I was in Bogota. And I took this picture outside of El Museo de Oro, the gold museum. And there were these two women, and it was sort of the same thing. You could take your picture with them, and it was they were in the traditional Colombian dresses. So I did that piece, and that was the one that got the most response from anyone in the show. It was the biggest, it was the brightest, most colorful piece that I had there. And ever since I had done that one, I always wanted to do it again, but I sort of hit this creative block, and I was having a really hard time making more work for a new show or anything. And then I went to Colombia again, and I saw more of the women in dresses. I was in the culture, and so I was inspired again to do it. So this is my second piece that I'm working on. This is a commission for a friend in Michigan. And for some reason, these are the ones that bring me the most joy. Like, I think it's so much fun to paint it. It's so colorful and big, and I don't have to be super exact or detailed about anything of it, because I think it really brings out the vibrancy of the city.
Is that the largest pieces that you have? About that size?
Yeah, about this size. I think this is maybe either 24 by 36. I did one that was in the Art Expo show, Palenquera in Cartagena, and I think that one was 36 by 48. So that was my biggest oil painting.
Well, I definitely encourage people to contact you. We will provide them with a link to your website. We'll provide them with a link to your Instagram. And even if it's other artists that just want to exchange ideas, it sounds like you're open to that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I would definitely like that, because that's the whole idea. We'd like to get more artists to communicate with each other and help each other out, not be so lonely, right?
Right.
Right. And also to benefit from the inspiration from other artists and from the experience of other artists. You mentioned before about mistakes. What mistakes did someone else make? Right?
Or even just putting together a show. Like Art Expo was a really big learning experience for me, where I wanted to put all new work. I wanted to display it, and I had never gone to art school. So it was something that I just had to force myself to learn. It was just another muscle I had to work on.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody who has never done that before and needs that kind of advice, that I'm always happy to offer that. Or if someone's done a bigger show or a different type of show, and that can help me, that's always that's something that you can't pay enough money for that kind of community, that sort of helping.
Yeah, you need like the mother and the father that you have, right?
Right.
Your mother got you to go to Colombia and take all those pictures and to join the expo, right? We all need someone like that in our lives, and maybe that can be a community of us working together and helping each other out. Yeah. Well, Melanie, this was a very good conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we end?
I think we pretty much touched on everything. I'm glad. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about my work. I don't really have this sort of forum to
That's what we're trying to accomplish.
To discuss it. Yeah. So if I just encourage anyone, if they're interested in a piece, a commission, or if you just want to be my pen pal, be my art pen pal, I'm always open to that. You can reach me by through my website. There's a contact page on my website, or you can contact me through Instagram if that's easiest for you. So I'm always looking to meet new people, and I really appreciate talking to you all the way in New York from Colorado.
Sure.
So I'd love to stop by and see Chica prints at some point.
Sure, absolutely. You're more than welcome to come over. And I'm glad my wife ran into you because that's really how we met. You know,
Yes, you'll have to tell her I said hello.
well, I'll tell her, yeah, it was worth it. She was at the expo and she saw your artwork and she really liked it, and she bought a piece from you. And that's what it's all about, right? We're trying to get everybody to hopefully buy art from other people, get more interested in art, and at least enjoy the camaraderie of being together and
Definitely.
taking the journey together.
All right.
So thank you very much. And
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
thank you. Same to you. And thank you to all our listeners. Please remember this is a community, so please subscribe, comment, and hit the notifications bell, and keep us in touch and keep us in your artistic lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omen.
Thank you.